When are you most alive? When are you truly alive? So there are different ways to measure what is life and what's the absence of life. Science has its definition. Science says if there's a beating heart and an active brain, then you're alive. And if you don't have those, then you're not alive, which is true physiologically. But there are other ways to define what is life or the absence of life. And in today's class, the Alter Rebbe presents the spiritual view of when are you alive, when are you fully alive, or when you're not alive. What is life? Life has a universal definition, and that is when you are connected to your source of life. And because you're being fueled by the source of life, then you're alive. Well, the source of life from a spiritual perspective is more than just your heart and your brain. But the source of life is the godly energy, the life source that is in your soul giving you life. And so life from a spiritual perspective is described by how much are you and how much are you connected with that source of life. That is the point that we've been explaining in previous classes, that the most deepest quintessential part of your soul, known as Chachma, Chachma again being divided by the two words Koach Ma, the faculty of Ma means the unknown, Ma means what? What is it? Ma is a place without identity of self. Ma is not me and who I pursue to be for my own purposes, but Ma is the power of what? The power of curiosity, the power of vulnerability, recognizing and submitting oneself to a higher power, a higher source. So it's that place where you become connected with your source of life, the infinite life of God. That is called Kodesh. That's called holiness. What is holiness? Who is holy? We often try to judge people. Are they holy or not? We should never judge people, only judge ourselves. When are you holy? Just because you're doing something and you're dressing a certain way, you're holy? No, not necessarily. Holiness is very simple. Holiness is when you are connected to something outside of and more than just yourself. If you're just connected to yourself, you're just pursuing your own interests, you're not holy. Then you're just you. Holiness is when you're able to submit yourself, connect yourself, open yourself up to that which is true life, the infinite life of God. That is holiness. Now, the opposite of this life would be death. Death would mean when you're detached and disconnected from this infinite life source of God. Death is when a person is not connected, not open to something beyond higher than themselves, but they're fully submerged and committed just to themselves. It becomes I, what I want, versus thou, versus the other, what is beyond there, what God wants from me. So the metaphor brought here is from the expression that Esav in the Torah used. When Esav turns to Yaakov, he's very hungry one day, and he sells his birthright on condition. He says, "Haliteini na min adom adom hazeh." Please pour for me, pour down my throat the soup, lentil soup which you're making. Haliteini means pour for me. That became like a metaphoric kind of paradigm. The person who their whole life is dedicated to one thing only, themselves, self-indulgence, self-serving. Pour for me, give to me, make for me, make it about me all the time. That kind of person on a spiritual level is called dead. That kind of person is disconnecting themselves from the life source that transcends them, their soul, which is connected with the infinite light of God. And so you have people like the heretics, the idolaters, those that live the completely selfish, self-indulgent lives. They're disconnected from this life source. They are in a way called the living dead. They may be alive physiologically, but they're dead spiritually. Even if not to that extreme, but any person who is engaged in sin, right? And any person who occasionally falls trap to the lusts, the desires of their animal soul, what happens is that they're submerging their soul, their godly soul, their chachma, their innocent, essential point within themselves, and they're submerging, they're trapping that into a state of exile. And that becomes the expression that we started off with, the idea of the hidden love within the soul. The soul has the natural capacity for being the source of life, being connected to the source of life. But when that is trapped in the confines of the animal soul and in in the sackcloth of klipa, in the peels and the layers of klipa, then it becomes in a state of exile. And therefore, that natural love, that natural inclination, the natural yearning, like the flame wishing to go to its source, the soul wishes to be connected with its source, that natural trait within the soul becomes hidden, and it doesn't ever become extinguished. It's not gone, it's always there, but it becomes hidden. And once it's hidden, it can no longer influence a person, and therefore you can become subject to all the trappings and all the distractions of the spirit of folly of the animal soul, which overtake you and which attempt to seduce you and convince you that even without your attachment to the source of life, you can still be alive and you can pursue your own life and interest. But that is really not true. That's a lie. That is a spiritual lie. And to be able to uncover that lie is really important. And that means you need to tap into and discover the hidden love, the hidden natural connection of that godly soul, and how to uncover that and how to allow that to influence your life. That's going to be the subject of the future classes. But the takeaway here is to evaluate not just our physiological life, the health of our heart and our mind and our bodies, which is very, very important. But equally important is the health of our spiritual life. How much are we connected with and the source of our spiritual life? And it affects the physical health also. The two are very much related to each other, as science is discovering nowadays as well, versus are you disconnected in that spiritual way? And that could be very harmful to you, not just spiritually, but also physiologically as well. This is the portion for Shabbat, and I wish you Shabbat Shalom. God bless you. Have an amazing day, an amazing Shabbat.